Today, I want to go over something I've gone over many times before. I will start in Ezekiel 38. And those of you who understand Ezekiel 38, you know this is the invasion of Israel, of the land of Israel, the mountains of Israel, by the people of the land of Magog, Rosh, prince of Meshech and Tubal, Gomer, Persia, Libya, and other African countries. Now, way down here, I will start in verse 17, and I'm going to make some remarks as I'm going. Thus saith Jehovah Elohim, are you he of whom I have spoken of in old times by my servants the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I would bring you against them? And it shall come to pass at the same time, when Gog shall come against the land of Israel, saith Jehovah Elohim, that my fury shall come up in my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day, remember those two words, that day. In that day, there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heavens and the beasts of the field and all the creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground, and I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith Jehovah Elohim. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. Remember that when I go to the next scripture. And I will, it says, plead against him, or put him on trial, or bring tribulation upon him with pestilence and with blood. Yes, you read about that in the very first trumpet sounds. And I will rain upon him and his bands, and upon many of the people with him with an overflowing rain, great hailstones, fire, and brimstone. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Jehovah, he says. Now, that day and forward, I'm looking. Okay. I think I will just go ahead and go straight to Haggai 2. Once again, I'll go ahead and read this one thing in Ezekiel 39 verse 8. Behold, it is come and it is done, saith Jehovah Elohim. This is the day whereof I have spoken. Very, very, very important. I'm hoping, yes. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Ezekiel 39 and verse 22. I'll start in verse 21. And I will set my glory among the heathen, and all the heathens shall see my judgment that I have executed, and my hand that I have laid upon them. So the house of Israel shall know that I am Jehovah their Elohim from that day and forward. Remember those words. Now we will go to Haggai 2. Verse 10, in the 24th day of the 9th month. What day is that? It is Hannukah, the day of dedication, the day of anointing, the day of consecration. It is that day, and I will prove it right now using Jehovah's own words that came out of his mouth. In the 24th day of the 9th month, in the 2nd year of Darius, came the word of Jehovah by Haggai the prophet, saying, Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, ask now the priest concerning the law of the Torah, saying, If one bear holy flesh in the skirt of his garment, and with his skirt do touch bread or pottage or wine or oil or any meat, shall it be holy? And the priest answered and said, No. Then said Haggai, If one that is unclean by a dead body touch any of these, shall it be unclean? And the priest answered and said, It shall be unclean. Then answered Haggai and said, So is this people, and so is this nation before me, saith Jehovah. And so is every work of their hand. That which they offer there is unclean. Now I pray you, consider this day. What day? 24th day of the 9th month. And upward, from before a stone was laid upon a stone in the temple of Jehovah. It should read from that day and forward. Verse 16, Since those days were, when one came up to a heap of 20 measures, there were but 10. And when one came to the press fat to draw out 50 vessels out of the press, there was only 20. I smote you with blasting and with mildew and with hail, and all your labors of your hands. Yet you turn not to me, says Jehovah. Consider now this day, the 24th day of the 9th month, and forward, from the 24th day of the 9th month, even from the day that the foundation of Jehovah's temple was laid, consider it. Is the seed yet in the barn? Yes, as yet the vine, and the fig tree, and the pomegranate, and the olive tree, they have not brought forth. But from this day will I bless you. Now, we'll stop here for just a second. What he's pointing out to them is he's saying, he was telling the people of Israel, you're not obeying. They're not obeying him. Yet, the criteria for him to bless them is not as the preachers tell you. The criteria is a special day. What day is that again? The 24th day of the 9th month, which is the first day of Hannukah. That is the criteria. And the word of Jehovah came unto Haggai once again, a second time, in the 24th day of the 9th month, saying, Speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth, and I will overthrow the throne of kingdoms. We just read about that in Ezekiel 38:39. Did we not? And I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the heathen. And I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride in them, and the horses and the riders shall all come down, every one by the sword of his brother. Yes, we read that in Ezekiel 38 and 39. In that day, what day? The 24th day of the 9th month, the first day of Hannukah, the day of dedication, the day of consecration, is when he's going to do this, without a shadow of a doubt. In that day, saith Jehovah of hosts, I will take you, O Zerubbabel, my servant, the son of Shealtiel, saith Jehovah, and I will make you as a sign. What sign is that? The sign of Zerubbabel is for the second call to rebuild Jerusalem. And the second call was made Shavuot 1967 in the Jewish calendar, in the Roman calendar. And from 62 weeks from Zerubbabel's call to when Messiah was cut off was 62 sevens, according to Daniel 9. I have gone over that many times. And the second call to rebuild Jerusalem happened June 7, 1967, and there were 7 sevens, or 49 years allotted for that time period. Now, what I want to do is, before I forget about this, I have done this before, but not with Haggai 2, so I'm going to go back to Ezekiel 39. All right. Now, I will start in verse 17. You son of man, thus saith Jehovah Elohim, speak unto every feathered fowl, unto every beast of the field, assemble yourselves, and come and gather yourselves on every side to my sacrifice, that which I sacrifice to you, even a great sacrifice upon the mountains of Israel, that you may eat flesh and drink blood. And you shall eat the flesh of the mighty, and drink the blood of the princes of the earth, the rams and the lambs, and of the goats, of the bullocks, and all the fatlings of Bashan. And you shall eat fat until you be full, and drink blood until you be drunken of my sacrifice, which I have sacrificed for you. Thus shall you be filled at my table, with horses and chariots, with mighty men, and with all men of war, saith Jehovah Elohim. Now, the disciples said, where? To Yeshua, where, Master, where? Well, yes, that's what they said. And he said this: where the dead bodies are, that's where the eagles will be gathered, or where the vultures will be gathered. So they were astute enough in the prophets that they would have known what he meant. Go back to Ezekiel 39. Where? The mountains of Israel. Now, verse 21. And I will set my glory among the heathen, and all the heathen shall see the judgment that I have executed in my hand that I have laid upon them, that the house of Israel may know that I am Jehovah their Elohim, before I helped them, before I saved them. That's not what he said. No, after. Afterward, from that day and forward. Remember in Haggai 2, where it says, from that day and forward, that day is the day he's going to bless Israel. That day, the 24th day of the 9th month. All you rabbis out there, all you preachers out there, the Prime Minister of Israel, you must know this. This should be mandatory. It is that day. And it was that day when Jehovah helped the Maccabees. Now, it says, from that day and forward, verse 23, and the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity, because they trespassed against me. Therefore I hid my face from them, and gave them into the hand of their enemies. So they fell all by the sword, according to their uncleanness, and according to their transgressions have I done unto them, and have hid my face from them. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, now, when? From the 24th day of the 9th month will I bring again the captivity of Jacob, and have mercy. You know what mercy is? Mercy is undeserved, well, mercy. Sometimes mercy is deserved and sometimes it is undeserved. Pity. In this case, it is undeserved. And have mercy upon the whole house of Israel, and will be jealous for my holy name. After they have borne their shame, which they did, and all the trespasses where they trespassed against me, when they dwelt safely in their land, and none made them afraid. When I have brought them again from the people, the Gentiles, and gathered them out of all their enemies' lands, and am sanctified in them in the sight of many nations, then and only then, shall they know that I am Jehovah their Elohim, which caused them to be led into captivity among the heathen, but I have gathered them unto their own land, and I have left none of them there anymore. Not one, not a speck of Israel will be left in any land on the earth. Not even the remotest. Verse 29, neither will I hide my face any more from them, for I have poured out my spirit upon the house of Israel, saith Jehovah Elohim. When is he going to do that? On the 24th day of the 9th month, on the day of dedication and consecration. Not before, not after, but on that day and forward. This is going to happen. Do I know which year? No, I don't. I do, however, know we should start expecting something very soon now. And when it happens, it's going to be on the first day of Hannukah.